We're here with first-year recruiting coordinator and linebackers coach Mike Elston. Coach, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Talk a little bit about this first year of being the recruiting coordinator at Notre Dame, what that's been like, what your goals have been, and kind of the changes you've made here in your first year.
Well, taking over last year in February, right after signing date, it's not my first rodeo. I was coach's recruiting coordinator at University of Cincinnati. So, very familiar with how to run the process, how to build an operation that can be very functional. So what we had to do was first step back and assess where we were within the recruiting department. And we had just lost 4 full-time coaches, which was a challenge, because you build relationships over the whole year. You build relationships with coaches, with players that you're recruiting, and then all of a sudden, poof, they're gone.
Right.
And then we had to really replace 2/3 of our recruiting office. So, we had to assess where we were. Once we did that, we decided to break the recruiting office into really 2 major facets, which has helped us out. Number one is the evaluation. So Dave Poloquin, who does a great job, he's in charge of our 85-man roster. He's responsible really for making sure that every single position coach is identifying and watching and evaluating all the kids in his area and then also by position. So once we detailed that out and made sure that we were watching and evaluating the correct guys, then the second phase is, okay, now we got to go acquire the talent. Right. We identified who we have. Now we need to go and acquire that. So that's where we really made the biggest jump. Once we identified who we wanted to now campaigning them, marketing them, making them understand what we're about. And the biggest goal for us, Joe, as you know, this is a different place. So trying to get kids and their families on campus.
Right.
That's priority number one. If they don't get here, they don't know what we're about.
Right.
They can read online, they know the tradition, and we can talk to her blue in the face on the phone. But we made a huge strategy to get more players on our campus sooner. And that has paid big dividends. Go ahead.
So I guess kind of looking back at that process, you splitting it up into 2, what exactly happens for a prospect, once they've been identified and they're in the system, how many steps does he go through? And I guess it might be different on different occasions, but how many steps does he go through before getting a scholarship offer to University of Notre Dame?
Well, there's quite a few steps because we have very strict, admissions requirements.
Right.
We have a certain level of a character that's going to fit in or not fit in on our campus. And the biggest gauge for us is once we get them on campus, like I identified, is to get them with our players. And
right.
we get great feedback from our current roster, our current guys. Once they spend an evening with them or spend a day with them, we get a great feel. So there's the video, evaluation via, talking to the coach or an in-person evaluation. So there's that physical piece, and then there's the character piece, talking to the people that are around him. There's the academic piece that you're trying to evaluate, and then there's a medical piece that you're trying to evaluate. So there's all types of things that go within our evaluation process. So there's quite a few steps. There's about 5 steps for a young man to go through, and sometimes we get those answered much quicker than others, and sometimes it's a process where, hey, the first piece, the evaluation piece, we need to see you in person. So spring recruiting or on campus for a camp, maybe even as late as in the fall as senior year to watch a game. So each one of them is timed a little different. Sometimes you have a slam dunk,
right.
young man, it's a great student, great character. You love his film, you love what the coaches are saying about him. Everything checks out. Get him over to admissions, get the approval there, and then boom, you offer him. So
right.
Everybody's a little bit different. There's no real blueprint
yeah.
to how it happens, but we have a blueprint on how we want it to go, but everybody's timetable is a little bit different.
Right. So I guess now kind of looking at your life, how has your life changed with regards to, not only do you have your segment of, you're in Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, and North Carolina, which is already spread out, but then you're
right.
also going around the country. What's that like for you, and really how far are you traveling during this process?
Well, Coach Kelly actually sent out a tweet the other day about he covered 10,000 miles on his plane, and I met up with him in Fresno, so you cut out about 800 miles, and then that was me with him the rest of the way, so almost 8,500 miles to 9,000 miles just in 4 days. So and what we do, Joe, is we try to focus on our areas initially to make sure we're not missing anybody. I'm responsible for all the kids in Indiana,
right.
making sure that we evaluate them, making sure that I bring them to, if he's an offensive lineman, make sure that Coach Heastan knows about him. So
right.
Once we're done with that, then we really focus on our position. So what I was doing the last week of this signing period was I'm flying all over the country seeing linebackers.
Right.
So not to get too detailed into it, but we really focus on our area. Like you said, I have Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, western part of North Carolina. And then for the majority of it, once spring ball is over and we're out recruiting, I'm into a lot of position work. So, and then as the recruiting coordinator, to make a long story short on the initial part of your question of what's changed for me, it's just more organizational thoughts. My mind is always running about ways to improve the process, the whole process for us, ways to generate excitement about our recruiting process. And social media, graphic design, all that stuff needs to continue to grow. That's an area that instant feedback from players, instant feedback from coaches. So that's a really big area for us. But, just there is a lot more time, commitment, especially for travel. And I have a wonderful wife who understands that. And there's a lot of FaceTime going back and forth between me and the family. So a bigger time commitment, but definitely a more competitive feel and excitement for me during, what would be normally let's just coach the linebackers, but now really organizing everything and being a leader of it.
No, seriously. And I love that you brought up your family. You have such an amazing family, and you've brought us in your home, so I have to thank you, publicly for that. And, and she also does make one heck of a cookie.
Hell yeah.
But let's go back to something you just brought up with social media. Really, how has that kind of changed the recruiting game, if you will? Like,
sure.
How is life different now than when it was when you first started?
Well, the way to communicate back when, let's say, even when you were coming out of school, but when I was coming out of school for sure was through snail mail. It was basically, it was postcards and letters and envelopes and then phone calls, which were limited at the time. So what's changed now is it is instantaneous. Big picture is recruiting is about relationships, right? You make it harder for them to tell Mike Elston no than it is to tell the other assistant on another staff no. Okay, so it's about building that relationship. Well, the fastest way to build a relationship these days with this age group is through social media,
right?
Because they are on it. Whether it's a young man who's on Twitter or a family who's on Facebook, let's face it, the older people like parents are on Facebook. And the young kids are on Twitter or Instagram or they're vining things. So when I send somebody a message, I get instant feedback.
Right.
So I can send them the information about Notre Dame. They can give me instant feedback, and then I can respond to that in a way accordingly. So social media has changed it to where the relationship can grow much quicker, much faster, and that's why you're seeing kids be able to make a decision. They have an idea of what Notre Dame's about. They come on campus for a visit, and it's all they needed.
Right.
So
how's that time for you, though? I mean, it's got to be a little bit more difficult kind of to manage that family time.
Well, it is, because I'm always, like last night, okay, I'll give you an example. I got home the night before signing date. My daughter Olivia wanted me to check her math. My daughter Sophie wanted to play gin rummy with me.
Yes.
My daughter Izzy was doing a dance that, she had been practicing all day that she wanted her dad to watch. And then I'm like down looking at, tweeting this, looking up. Yeah, okay, hang on one second.
Right.
So that's a challenge. But it wouldn't be possible if, again, I mentioned my wife, Beth, and I think that our wives in general, all of the coaches here on this staff, we have incredible wives that are very supportive, that understand, that this process is very time consuming. And then on the flip side, you have Brian Kelly, who's the best boss in the country, who after this evening, we're going to have a big celebration on him. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I get 4 days with my family. So we'll be able to make up for it. And I don't think everybody does it that way. Right. I know for sure that the guys I talk to don't have that luxury. But that's why I've been with Brian Kelly for 13 years. So
right.
I'm very thankful.
I was going to say, I mean, this is the best culture I've been around, and we're obviously thankful for the culture that he's built. But let's get into really the big questions now.
Okay.
And really, we're going to call this the hot topic. I know
okay.
I've seen you spying on this, by the way.
No, what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Basically, this is 16 questions, obviously for the class of 2016.
16 questions.
16 rapid-fire questions.
Okay.
And I'm going to want you to answer them as quickly as possible.
With no thought?
No thought. First thing comes to your mind.
Okay.
So if you're ready, this is the hot topic.
All right.
So number one, would you rather go for 1 or 2?
1.
Would you rather receive or defer?
Receive.
Would you rather choose heads or tails?
Heads.
If you were a type of food, what would you be?
Pasta.
What's your spirit animal?
Oof. A lion.
All right. Kobe or Jordan?
Jordan. All the way, dog.
I mean, I've got no answers for my boy. What Disney?
It's a different generation.
Yeah, I know. What Disney princess are you?
Oh, I got so many favorites. I'd probably say Aurora.
Okay.
Otherwise known as Briar Rose and Sleeping Beauty.
He's on his game today.
Yeah, well, I got 3 daughters, so.
He's on his game. All right. Ideal burrito type.
Burrito type. I didn't realize there was different burritos. Chicken and cheese.
There you go.
With a lot of good stuff inside of it.
There you go. Do you think Disney World is a trap operated by a mouse?
Oh, absolutely. Heck yeah.
There you go.
I agree.
Now you're thinking.
Yeah.
Would you rather be Coach Brian Kelly or Sports Information Director Mike Birch for the day?
That's easy. Brian Kelly. But for one day, that's it.
I was going to say just for one. Do you use umbrellas?
I do not.
Come on, man.
No.
Be sensible.
No, I just don't go out in the rain.
Okay. All right. Go-to dance move.
Say what now?
Go-to dance move.
Oh, I'm all nay, baby.
Oh, my gosh. If your life was a movie, what actor plays you?
I'd say Vince Vaughn.
That's a good call.
Yeah.
Scale of 1 to 10, how attractive are you?
In my own eyes, probably higher than what other people think of me, but I'd say 6, 7.
I like it.
Is 10 good or is 10?
10's good.
Okay.
10 being the best, 1 being the worst.
All right.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Oh, I'd want to fly.
I like that.
Yeah.
Coach, do you like being tickled?
I do not enjoy being tickled. Not at all. There's only one person that three little people that I let come close to tickling me, and that's it.
There you go. Coach, you made it through the hot topic.
All right.
Thanks so much
Joe.
for coming on.
Appreciate your time.